I've been a fan of Junghans for as long as I can remember. Even when I started collecting, it was one of the first brands that really stuck out to me. And I've actually owned the black dial version of this watch. But I always was intrigued by the white dial counterpart. And these watches come in a lot of different sizes, movements, dial variations. So it was difficult to choose one, but I went ahead and picked this one up mainly because of the case. So today we're going to take a look at the Junghans Max Bill PVD coated case, and we'll go ahead and take a look at the packaging like usual. I was able to get this watch pre-owned for a little under $300, though I do think the non-PVD cases are running for under $400 for sure, at least gray market. Here it is. It comes with a nice cloth. If I remember correctly, the booklets and everything should be down here. Yeah. Now, obviously, this is a quartz movement. Like I mentioned, they come in a lot of different variations, and one of those are the movements. You can get these in mechanical, hand winding, automatic, or quartz. Obviously, the prices range a lot, but to me, the quartz is always a best value for something like this, because just the prices are hard to beat for these kinds of designs, the kind of brand heritage. For under $400, I do think that's pretty hard to beat. Here it is. So like I said, I did own the black dial version of this. I think it's actually the charcoal version, but I loved it so much, and I figured I wanted to try the white dial version just because I loved the way it sat on my wrist. Here it is. So one of the reasons I did go with this case, this is a PVD casing right there. One of the reasons I did go for this case is just because it creates such a nice contrast between the numbers of dials in the case that's sometimes lost with the overly polished stainless steel. But obviously this is going to be a dress watch. This one is 38 millimeters. I would have actually liked this to be 36, but I'm not sure if they make that variant of this. Now, this is just super thin, and even at that, the thinness, a lot of it goes to the high crystal. So the dimensions on this, first of all, like I said, this is 38 millimeter case. It will wear close to that just because the lugs are pretty small. It has a 20 millimeter strap and lug width. The thinness is actually coming in under 8 millimeters. It is closer to 7.8, 7.9 millimeters, and like I said, a lot of that does go to the crystal. This comes on a gray leather strap that I actually quite like, but I'll be throwing this on different ones too to see how that wears. It does have a screw down. Sorry, the case back is screwed down by 4 screws there. The case back is similar to the other one I owned with the Max Bill signature there. It has a 3-bar stainless steel. It says 3-bar stainless steel, so this is not really going to be one that you want to wear outside in the rain or getting wet. But like most dress watches, that's kind of the case. One of the things I was a little disappointed by this was the lack of lume. The last watch I owned that was similar to this did have some lume, as you can see, but ultimately that's not a deal breaker for this style of dress watch. It's not a deal breaker. There's a lot to be said about this design, from the font to how clean it is, the handset to use, the thinness, the date wheel, everything just works perfectly. And there's a reason why this is pretty much the go-to recommendation for a dress watch. And the German heritage on this is actually really nice. And of course, it just wears super comfortably just because of the thinness. I am curious to see how the PVD case holds up. I've had issues in the past where the coating of it kind of starts wearing off, so I'll keep you guys updated on that. So let's go ahead and compare this to some other watches. I brought out popular watches that are pretty well known for their size. So we'll start with the turtle here. Everybody knows the turtle. Everybody knows the size of the turtle. And obviously it's enormous compared to it, which is expected. The turtle is a dive watch. It's going to be a lot thicker. It's going to be a lot bigger and a lot more hefty. And that's certainly the case here. But look at that thinness. That really does highlight the thinness of the Max Bill. And that's considering that the turtle really isn't an enormous watch like a tuna or something like that. And even then, just incredible. I also brought out the Corona, the Toki, simply because it's a very similar dress watch. There you go. And see how the sizes are a little bit more comparable. The Toki is a little bit smaller, but it will run a little bit thicker because of the automatic movement inside. Two awesome dress watches if you want to kind of circumvent the Swiss watchmaking. These are great watches, a Japanese and a German, that in my opinion can really hold their own to just about any Swiss brand. And I also brought out this Halios. It's the latest Universa. Simply because I had a dive watch, a dress watch, I figured I'd get, this is kind of a tool watch. It's a little bit dirty here. I'll clean that up. And it's a very popular watch that a lot of people know. It's a sub 40mm watch too, so it'll be nice to compare this. Now it does look like the Junghans is gonna wear a little bit bigger just because of the tiny to non-existing bezel. And of course it's gonna run a lot thinner. Two great watches here. Now let's throw this on the wrist, and also let's put this actually in daylight to see how those numbers really pop. But ultimately, if you're looking for a dress watch, you're not really concerned about the mechanical movement aspect of it. These quartz watches are actually fantastic. This is actually my second quartz that I've owned, and it's just such a great design. I would say it's versatile enough to be a everyday wear. You can dress this up or just wear this with a t-shirt. The thinness just disappears on the wrist, and the design is obviously just about as good as it gets. Let's throw this on the wrist and in the daylight to see how that wears. And in the daylight, just handling it, the contrast really does pop. I really do like the hands. If you look at the minute hand and the second hand, it does have a little break in between. And really, like I said, this is just such a classic design, and it's executed so well, which to me just makes me love this watch even more, because I feel that a lot of brands try to go for this kind of quote-unquote clean design but completely miss the mark. But this is just done fantastically. So let's throw it on the wrist and see how that wears there. And yeah, of course on the wrist it does wear as my other Max Bill wore. It's very thin. It's very comfortable, and it really does disappear just because of the thinness. Like I did mention, this is not going to be your tool watch. This isn't something you want to wear swimming or going out hiking or anything like that. But for everything else, maybe your everyday life, going to work or just wearing around the house, this should be able to do the job. The coating and the numerals really do make a great contrast with the white, so you'll be sure to be seeing a lot more of this one. Overall, very happy for the price and it's getting such a classic design. So I'm coming back to this after having finished recording it to edit this, because I actually made a mistake. This watch is lumed, and because of my previous experience with Junghans, it wasn't the same kind of lume, so just by looking at this, I didn't think it was. The past watches that I had the little lume dots around the perimeter of the dial, and since I didn't see that, I didn't think that was the case. But after recording it, I realized that it was loomed, so I am actually making this edit, and we'll go right back to the actual video. So let's take a look at the lume here. You get to see it a little bit in the hands, but actually this is actually super cool because I never really see this, that every number is actually loomed. Now it's not the strongest lume, and that's kind of expected at this price point. And of course we're not in complete darkness. Actually, we're actually in a pretty substantial amount of light, so you will be able to see this more in complete darkness. But that's actually amazing that I was able to wear this watch, look at the dial up close, and I didn't notice that the numbers were loomed. The lume is very, very finely applied, so really in the light you would be able to tell that there's lume in those numbers. It looks just like standard black indices. Let's turn on the light again. And yeah, that you really can't see that in the numbers, so that's actually a huge plus. That was my only complaint, that it wasn't loomed, but I was actually wrong. So I'm glad I was able to catch that before publishing this and kind of clarifying that.